Wife School show. Hope everyone's having a nice weekend so far. Excited to be here. We're doing a Q&A today on watch for these 3 ways your wife plays you. So that's what we're talking about today. Before we go there, I will check out the chat to make sure you guys can hear me and see me okay. But just a couple announcements as always. Number 1, there is no live show next Saturday. I'm going to be out of town with my team for a work trip. So I won't be live. Adam and I are recording our video today. So if I get that edited this week, I'm going to schedule that to play at the regular live show time slot next Saturday. And if it's not next Saturday, it will likely be the last Saturday of the month, which is another weekend that I will be out of town for work. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. Another announcement, if you enjoy listening to the live show without the beginning where I talk and give announcements, or at the end where I answer some questions and go over some comments, you can find these episodes on Spotify or Apple. Just look up the Happy Wife School show and you can follow me there and listen on audio without video. And then finally, I want to point you guys in the direction of my colleague and good friend Josie's YouTube channel. The link is in the description below to her channel, which is Beyond Remission, a new era of permanent healing. And Josie's been doing regular lives and putting out new content. If you are someone or know someone who struggles with autoimmune diseases like fibromyalgia, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, rheumatoid arthritis, things of that nature, or a chronic illness like chronic pain or ADHD or ADD or anxiety or depression, and you've been to doctors, you've been to healers, you've been doing alternative medicine, and you're still not finding answers, Josie helps people to outgrow their autoimmune diseases and chronic illnesses by working on their emotional state as the root cause to those issues and illnesses. So please go check out her YouTube channel. Again, you can find the link in the description below. I'm going to check the chat here real quick just to make sure you guys can hear me and I'm not talking to dead air. Hi, C. Kelly. Nice to have you here. Luke, Phil, Steve, Evo, thank you so much to my moderators. Loud and clear in Indiana. Thank you, Daniel. My husband and I both have ties to Indiana. My husband's from Evansville, and my parents are from New Albany and live in Jeffersonville, Indiana. So lots of good ties there in Indiana. Nice to see you, Tia. And Mona, nice to see you. I know you've been here, but I haven't seen your name in the chat while I'm live in a while. So great to have you. Thanks so much for joining, and I'm going to go ahead and get into it. If you have questions or comments for me today, Evo will capture those. I'll see if I've got a little time to answer some of those at the end, but I've got an important recording and date with my husband after this live show today. So I'll see what time it is, but Evo is going to capture those. So you can put those through the chat throughout and just put question for Karen, and he will copy those and send them to me. If I don't get to them today, then they will go on the queue for the next Q&A when I answer questions from the audience. So today, and getting into watch for these 3 ways your wife plays you, I am answering questions that I have received from people submitting questions. There's a link below in the description to submit questions to me. And that's where these 3 questions came from today. So thank you so much to those who sent those in to me. And each of these questions demonstrates traps that good men fall into where they are played and manipulated by their wives and are unable to see through the games and through the traps. So without the education, good men are blind into these traps and duped by their wives. So the purpose for today's video for good men watching is for you to learn about these traps and to see them clearly so that you're not giving your power away to them. For the women listening, the part of this channel's title is the red pill for women, because we cannot heal our woman ways that I discuss on the channel and in my videos and content. We can't heal those woman ways by denying these behaviors in ourselves or our potential and propensity to act out these behaviors in a marriage to a good man. It is by knowing these behaviors in ourselves as women that we can change and also be proactive to prevent some of these behaviors in our marriages. We have to understand ourselves as women, and what I teach, and from my perspective, is that as women, we all have these behaviors and woman ways on a spectrum. And we have to understand that wiring in us as women so we can take responsibility for those shortcomings and limitations, catch ourselves, and outgrow them to become the best version of ourselves that we can be, and know the true nature of ourselves as women, which is kind and lovely and soft and feminine, that we can have character and integrity. But as long as we deny our unhealthy behaviors and limitations in a marriage or relationship to a good man, we will act these things out and act these behaviors out and be blind to our own wiring and our destructive behaviors. It's only by seeing them and seeing the truth of this experience in ourselves that we can overcome it and use them as a guide to be in the best parts of who we are as women. Before I get into the questions, it's important to know I haven't spoken to these individuals or their wives. I don't know the details of their marriage. I'm using their questions as talking points to discuss the principles and concepts that I teach on the channel so that we can all learn from these common everyday marital issues and support ourselves as women and men to have healthy, happy marriages. So that's just an important framework as I get into these questions to know. So I'm going to answer 3 questions, and within each of these are a trap in a way in which we play our husbands as women or have the propensity to play our husbands in these ways. So the first question is, I knew my wife was possibly doing things behind my back, and I finally had proof. She went to lunch with a guy, quote unquote, friend, then hung out in the back parking lot for a while before they cruised around town together. She told me it was her and her mom. I finally had her admit it was this other guy that she says is, quote unquote, just a friend. Could you please go into the signs and reasons behind emotional affairs? I feel it is far more common than people realize. So thank you so much for the question. And as I get into the signs and reasons for emotional affairs or affairs in general, and physical affairs, and what's going on for us as women in that, this question and what this man has shared is another example of why, as women, we cannot and should not have male friends. And the same goes for men. I don't think it's appropriate as married people to have friends of the opposite sex, but in this we are talking about a woman and her having an affair. It is not appropriate to have male friends, ladies. It's disrespectful to our husbands and our marriages, and there's absolutely no reason to have male friends. It is unnecessary temptation, and potentially gives us the unnecessary opportunity to go outside the marriage and break our vows. So it is best in what is an integrity and character as married women to not have male friends. You can go watch a video I did a while back that I really like called Platonic Friendships, the top 3 reasons that married women have male friends. So to learn more about that, go there. But just wanted to say that right up front. This question is a really good example of gaslighting, of convincing and causing, in this context, a good man to doubt his own perception, to doubt his own reality of what is going on in the marriage. In this, she's denying that there's anything going on. And what this causes a good man to do is stay in his confusion about his suspicions that something is going on behind his back, and again, doubt his own perception. The second way that I see in this question, again, not knowing the details, but the second way I see gaslighting in this question is that this man's wife is trying to convince him that the other man is, again, quote unquote, just a friend, which then he knows there's something else going on. So it's leading him to believe, oh, it's an emotional affair. However, according to his question, his wife and the male friend hung out in the parking lot for a while. And we all know what that means, that there is absolutely something physical going on. So that's another form of gaslighting, of her saying he's just a male friend, and then a good man wanting to not go to the worst case scenario because he still loves and adores his wife, then believes this, oh, well, it must be an emotional affair. So that's another highlight from this question. And now I want to get into the signs and reasons, and another way that I haven't talked about that women will play their husband. So the only reason that a woman is going to have an emotional affair or a physical affair is our own internal happiness that creates a void and emptiness within us that makes us believe something is missing. And in our wiring as women, we feel entitled and are self-centered to go searching for what is missing. And in the case of an affair, it's the feelings of romantic love and feeling that another man other than our husbands can give us those feelings of romantic love and give us the experience that we feel we're missing in the marriage that we blame our husbands for. So we feel justified in creating a connection to another man, whether that's emotional or emotional and physical. That's the only reason that a woman married to a good man will cheat. And you want to go watch Why Women Cheat, episode 26, to learn more about that. And in terms of the signs of what a husband or a man needs to look for in his marriage is knowing you will not see the signs unless you are looking for them. So if you suspect that your wife has something going on behind your back, then you need to know and trust your instinct and trust your own perception of what is going on so that you look for the signs, and you will find them, as this man did. If you suspect this is happening in your marriage and your wife is going outside the marriage, again, whether it's an emotional affair or a physical affair, then you have to assume you're correct, and then you will see the signs. The biggest way that a woman plays her husband when having an affair is called the tease. And the tease is a manipulation tactic that a woman uses to string her husband along and keep him on her emotional hooks by doing just enough in the marriage to distract him from his suspicions and from the reality he sees that his wife is straying outside the marriage. I'm going to repeat that because I think it's really important, and it's a new concept I haven't talked about before. And it's called the tease. That in the context of a woman having an emotional and or physical affair, She will often operate in what I call the tease, which is a manipulation tactic that we use to string our husbands along and do just enough to keep him on our emotional hooks, to distract him from his suspicions and his own reality that she is straying outside the marriage. So in this, in the tease, women will do just enough, whether that's being nice, pretending to be attentive and affectionate, even having sex with her husband, which then causes a man to believe everything is okay, that he must be paranoid, and that she isn't up to anything. In the tease, there are ups and downs. And in those ups and downs, so the ups are the tease. That's where a woman will string her husband along and keep him on her hooks so that he still loves and adores her. That's one of the most common things I hear from good men, even in the circumstances of her going outside the marriage and cheating or having an affair or having an emotional affair. I love her. In spite of this, I still think she's a wonderful woman and I adore her. That's because in the tease, when things are quote unquote good, a woman is keeping a man on her emotional hooks to still love and adore her. The downs in the tease are where a woman is emasculating and gaslighting her husband to keep him weak and keep him believing that he is the problem in his marriage and doubting his own perception and reality. The reason that a good man gets caught up in this trap and manipulation is he doesn't have it in him. It's not part of his makeup or his nature to manipulate. And also good men, as I've talked about before, have short memories. So in the ups, when his wife is being nice and doing just enough to string him along, it reestablishes the love and the good feelings. So then he believes that the downs are just his wife struggling and just going through her own stuff. And in that, a woman will still blame her husband and even internally in herself blame him for why she might be going outside the marriage. And in those downs, a good man is wrapped into that manipulation, again, to believe that he's the problem and prevents him from knowing that his suspicions are correct. And he will continue to be confused and doubting his reality. So one of the best signs for a good man to look for if he suspects his wife is having an affair as one, if you suspect it and you're seeing some signs, even though you're maybe not trusting them in yourself, you need to know, okay, I have to assume this is what's happening so that I look for the signs and know that it's true. And the best thing you can look for is your wife operating in the tease. You can't see it without the education and the context of it. When you have the education and the context for it, then you can start to see it and know it in your experience. When your wife is behaving and trying to manipulate you in this way. And for women listening who have had an affair or are in the midst of an affair or thinking about having an affair, then you want to see this in yourself and understand how badly this makes you feel, how disrespectful it is to your husband, and recognize what's really going on inside of you of why you're engaging in this behavior, which is our own unhappiness, so that you can work to make yourself happy, recommit to your marriage and your vows, and not play your husband in this way. So thank you so much to the gentleman that submitted that question. I'm going to go to the second question now. And it's a little longer of a question, but I thought everything he included was really important because it really paints the picture of how good men operate in a marriage, even when they make a mistake. And so I was going to try to pare it down, but I thought it was all really relevant and important to hear. I consider myself a good man. I am a doctor with a respectable position in my community. My marriage of 20 years is on the verge of separation. I love my wife intensely, and she is an amazing person who I adore. I strayed out of my marriage a couple of years ago. I was not receiving love from my wife for a long period. It's really important. We grew apart, and I was foolish enough to think an ex-girlfriend who is also married could provide the love that I craved. I ended the affair and decided to tell my wife about it, thinking it would help our relationship if I was honest and authentic. It did not. I have spent a year tirelessly trying to mend the wrong I did. She says she will never forgive me. I am totally broken. I love her more than life. What is your advice to a man who has decided to be honest, but is now suffering greatly because of that decision? So again, thank you so much to the man that was vulnerable to share this experience and submit this question. You are not alone. And in this, again, I'm going to talk about how as women we will play our husbands to go outside the marriage and for this circumstance to happen. And then a good man being a good man and having morals and integrity is honest and tells his wife, which was all part of the playbook. And then they find themselves in a perpetual purgatory and feeling broken like this man. Good men will generally not cheat unless pushed away and emasculated. Really important for men to hear that, really important for women to hear that, so that we can take responsibility if you are in this situation and your husband has cheated or stepped outside the marriage, that you look at your part and role, that we do have a part and role, and we are complicit in this experience. Because that's the only way we are going to start to take responsibility for our role and part in it and do our best to not have it on our Rolodex of hurts. His wife said it perfectly. She's never going to forgive him. Women in general, because of our walls, because we are looking for the perfect victim story to stay in our marriages so that we can blame our husbands, will never, ever take this off the Rolodex. It will be at the top of our hurts forever. Whereas a good man will be very hurt and crushed by his wife going outside the marriage, but in general can find it in himself if she's willing to recommit and work on herself and try to repair the damage and make the marriage work. He can find it in himself to forgive. So again, we're wired very differently in that way. Women cannot let this go. And then the how a woman will play and manipulate her husband in this, and what we need to know in ourselves so that we don't do this or stop our behavior if we are in the midst of it, or learn from it if we have done this as women, is that we push a good man to cheat. It is our master plan when we are unhappy in ourselves and looking for a way out of the marriage or a permanent, perfect excuse to always blame our husbands for the problems in the marriage. Pushing our husbands to cheat is our master plan so that we have the ammunition to leave. We don't have the courage if we are unhappy and blaming the marriage and we want out. We don't want to be the bad guy. Don't have the courage to initiate a divorce because deep down we know we have no valid reason to leave. If we are married to a good man, and it is our unhappiness in ourselves that then we blame the marriage, we know we have no valid excuse to get a divorce other than thinking the grass is greener somewhere else. So in that and in our cowardness, we plot and scheme to create the drama and push our husbands to cheat so that we have the perfect reason to leave and can build the perfect case against our husbands so that everyone validates us for why we need to leave and why we are right. And some of you might be thinking, because I did a video of this early on in the channel, you might be thinking, but Karen, 70 to 80% of divorces are initiated by the women. And that's because they have been plotting and scheming to leave for years. But we will not do it on our own accord. We have to create the perfect storm, the perfect scenario, so that we can exit stage left without any attention on us and our own devious behavior that led to the demise of the marriage. So in this case, we'll push our husbands to cheat, go outside the marriage. Another way a woman might, which we'll actually talk about in the next question, push our husbands to have anger and be quick to temper and act out in ways outside of his character. So we have that excuse as well. But while we are responsible for initiating 70 to 80% of divorces, don't be fooled that a woman hasn't created the perfect scenario and perfect environment to point the finger out at her husband so she feels validated in leaving. And again, builds a case with her friends and family members and her therapist that she's right to do so. And then we don't have to look at ourselves. We don't have to be exposed for our own behaviors that led, again, to the demise of the marriage. The second part that I want to go into in answering this gentleman's question is, as I've discussed before, as women, we are not emotionally mature enough to handle the truth. And in this case, the truth of our husbands having an affair or cheating or making a mistake in this way. I recently did episode 50, Why Good Men Lie, where you can dive more into this topic. But this is a personal values decision. Whether a man is honest and forthcoming if he's made a mistake is absolutely a personal values decision. However, my advice and perspective and what I believe is most respectful and loving is to not disclose. If you had a one-night stand, if you cheated, if you made the mistake of having an affair or an emotional affair, my advice is to not disclose it. And if you're staying in the marriage, to commit to learn from the mistake and not to do it again. That does not align, understandably and reasonably, with some men's value system. And I will talk to that in a moment of what you want to be prepared for and being honest. If you make a mistake and you have an affair, go outside the marriage, I will talk to, okay, here's then what you have to expect and what you have to be prepared for. But men cannot be naive going in to be honest with their wives. If they have cheated, do not be naive that your wife will value the virtue of your honesty. She won't. That will not be anywhere on her radar that you were courageous enough, had regret, had remorse to come forth and be honest. And as this gentleman said, He was trying to be authentic and thought that that would help, and it didn't. Women will always hold an affair, a one-night stand, cheating against you as a pawn that she can pull out anytime. Anytime she needs a reason to blame you and make you the problem, it will be one of the first things that she pulls out to use. It'll be her card forever in her back pocket. A woman knowing her husband cheated will also always have an excuse to do and behave any way she pleases because of what you did. And she will say things like, well, because you cheated, I can act this way. I don't have to have sex with you. I deserve to be cold and distant. Which is another form of gaslighting a good man. If he's had remorse, has come forth and been honest and is asking for forgiveness and trying to repent and make things right in the marriage, he will continue to be gaslit by his wife's behavior and blame toward him. That he will believe he deserves that treatment and believe into her story that she has the right to act and behave and do what she pleases. And believe that that's his sentence and that's what he deserves. So even though cheating and affairs on both sides are immoral, for a good man, if he has been honest or is going to be honest about having made a mistake, he has to understand why he made the mistake so that he can accept himself, learn and grow from it, and forgive himself. Because if he doesn't, like this gentleman, he will feel totally broken and stay stuck in that place. So you have to know your wife is always going to hold this over your head. She's never going to forgive you. It's always going to be on her top hurts, on her Rolodex of hurts. So it's up to you if you are staying. It's up to you to give yourself forgiveness so that you are not caught in the constant shame and gaslighting to make you a horrible, bad man for your mistake. So in order to accept yourself and forgive yourself, you must look for, how was your wife complicit? Not in a way to put the blame on her and be a victim, because that will keep you feeling broken and angry and destroyed in yourself. But from a place of understanding your behavior and why you strayed from your morals and character and integrity, because a good man actually has remorse and knows that he went against his morals. Whereas a woman, if she goes outside the marriage, feels totally justified and entitled, and while she might feign remorse, is really just wanting to be off the hook and not be in trouble or have her husband mad and upset with her anymore. Whereas a man will feel deep remorse, feel deeply bad because he knows he went against himself and his own integrity and morals. Whereas women, we don't have a connection to integrity and morals and having character in our day-to-day, whereas that is something that's very, very important to a good man. We don't think about that. We're not connected to that. It's not within our awareness of how we're showing up in life as to be in integrity, whereas it is for a good man. So to overcome the gaslighting and the wrath of your wife, if you have disclosed this mistake to her, you have to look for, how is she complicit? How did she push you to go outside the marriage? So that you can understand your actions, understand you are not a bad man or a bad person. And you must know she was complicit, because it's not in your moral system to randomly cheat. It wasn't a random event that you had an affair or you cheated. There is something that happened or something your wife is doing within the marriage that's pushing you to that. Even if your wife plays and pretends and has the facade of being a quote unquote good wife, you have to take the flashlight out and look at what's being withheld in the marriage that I can't see, of how she's showing up that's causing an emptiness and loneliness in you and in the marriage that pushed you to stray from your moral system. And that's how, for this man asking this question, that's how you begin to heal. And you have to accept your wife is correct. She won't forgive you. So to get out from underneath her hooks of making you bad and wrong in that, and you being sucked into that and living in that brokenness within yourself, you have to forgive yourself. And you have to understand what happened that led you to that, so that you can accept yourself, grow and learn from it, and you move on from it in yourself, even though your wife is not going to. For the men listening, that in your moral value system, which is very honorable, to come clean with your wife and be honest, do not be fooled that the truth is going to solve anything. It's going to make things worse. She's going to pull you into wanting you to share details. And she's going to want to know all the ins and outs. And you're going to feel, in a lot of affair-based therapy and counseling and affair recovery programs, are proponents of disclosing all the details and information, which I think is awful advice for both the man if he cheated, or the woman if she cheated, and then the person who didn't. It's not helpful at all to the situation. And the only reason that a woman wants to know all the details of an affair is, again, so we can add that to our Rolodex of hurts and have more ammo against the discretion to use against you. So don't be fooled that telling her the truth is going to solve anything, or telling her all the details is going to solve anything. It will make things worse. So you have to accept the consequences. There's the natural consequences. If you know it, you have to come clean and you have to be honest. If you have made this mistake, then you have to know you're going to face her wrath, and you're going to continue to face her wrath. She's going to have the perfect excuse to pull out anytime, everything that I've just talked about. So that, again, you can work through and heal within yourself, even though she is highly, highly unlikely to ever be able to forgive you, even if she has good intentions. Even if a woman has good intentions to forgive her husband, it's almost impossible. And I've worked with well-intentioned women who want to forgive their husbands, want to make things work, and it is nearly impossible. So don't be confused. You come forth and be honest, because that's what's true to you in your morals, so that you feel good about yourself in that, and you are being true to you. But it will not solve anything in the marriage. It will make things much, much worse. But it is, and both sides of the coin, if you tell or don't tell, it is in the knowing yourself as a good man and understanding what led you to go outside the marriage, that you can accept yourself, grow and learn from the mistake, and not get caught in the vortex of your wife's wrath when you tell her. So again, thank you to this gentleman for this question. Looking at the time, these took a little longer. I'm going to go ahead and do the third one. So, all right. I was considering that for a minute, but we will get into it. So this is the last question. Is button pushing part of what might push a good man to cheat? That drove me right out the door after 27 years. There was no relief from it. So great question. You are not alone. And what I would like to talk about in answering this question, the third way as women that we play our husbands that men need to know about so they can see it happening and take their power back from it and not give their wives the ammo of what happens when a wife pushes her husband's buttons and provokes him, is that it is within our devious intentions and in our woman ways to poke a good man to do things outside his character and morals, because we want to elicit responses that we can characterize our husbands as a quick-tempered, angry, or aggressive man. And for the women listening, you need to know you can do this and likely do. And we can push and provoke our husbands to elicit behaviors that are outside their nature of who they are, outside their character and morals, including cheating, with a smile on our face and acting like we are perfectly calm, to make them feel like you're the one that's losing it. You're the one that's acting so upset. I'm just being calm. That we can do that very covertly. We can also do it very overtly. So the play in our playbook as married women is, in our victim story, we have to create our husband to be who we believe him to be. So if we've created a story, our husbands are controlling, they're angry, they have a temper, they're not emotionally controlled within themselves, which is a projection. All of that is a projection of how we experience ourselves as women and our own unhappiness and our own unhealthy relationship with ourselves. We put that onto our husbands. And then to validate that victim story that we have created and that delusion that we live in, we have to create our husbands to be who we believe them to be. And in that, a good man unknowingly conforms to his wife's reality in her victim story, because a good man is naturally, in general, even-keeled, good-natured, and in control of his emotions. It's only when he's provoked and pushed and has his buttons pushed over time that it can push him over the edge to lose his emotional stability. And then he responds in ways that are uncharacteristic. And his actions in that, in the context of the marriage, weave our narrative as women that he's angry, and oftentimes weaves the narrative that he's narcissistic. So it's through pushing and provoking our husbands to act outside of their morals and character that we create our husbands to be a narcissist. I'll often say there's two types of good men in this situation with a woman, where she is pushing his buttons and causing him to respond in ways that are outside of his character, that he will either just take it and slink down and not fight back, or he will fight back. And in that, he might yell, he might punch a wall, he might say mean and hurtful things. He might seem controlling. Those are the responses to the emasculation and to the pushing and the provoking. And then we can use those behaviors in his responses to say, see, look at him, he's a narcissist. And then we take that story to a therapist. And unfortunately, a therapist these days will be very, very quick to validate a wife's story that her husband is a narcissist. And then her friends validate her, and then we'll read books and articles. And we have a solid victim story that this is what's happening in our marriage, that without the poking and provoking, a good man wouldn't act in those ways. And then what unfortunately happens is a man will say, well, I do yell, and I have said those mean things. And he feels bad about himself for acting outside of his character in those ways. And so then he buys into the story. And then week after week, month after month, year after year, like this man shared in his question, that there was no relief from the button pushing for 27 years. It breaks down the very essence of a good man. And there's no reprieve, no sense of affection, no sense of connection in the relationship. And so, yes, one of the things that can happen from this is a woman comes along who's not his wife and makes emotional advances on him, is nice, sees his good, and then he's vulnerable and susceptible because his wife has made him feel so deprived of any emotional or physical affection, which has created a craving for a kind, soft, emotional connection with another woman. This is another deviously planned escape route for a woman, so she has the perfect excuse to leave the marriage or be in a constant state of victim and do and behave and act any way she pleases in the marriage. So those are the 3 questions I wanted to answer today. Looking forward to seeing your guys' thoughts in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to wrap up in just a little bit. I've got Adam in the other room here behind me, and we are going to record our conversation together. So I'm eager to get to that. Please like this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I know everyone does such a great job of that in the chat, so thank you so much. And I'm going to pull this up here. Oh, thank you. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Thank you guys for your patience. Thank you very, very much for your contributions. Pete, don't repeat. Yeah, thank you for what you shared, and thank you so much for contributing to the show. I really appreciate that. Going to come back over here to the chat. Hi, Stevie-O. Nice to see you. I haven't seen your name pop up in a while either. I know you're here, but I haven't seen it to say hi on the live show. Mauricio, thank you so much. Good show, good show. So glad to hear it. As I say, sometimes I'll be going, I'm like, is this? Yeah. Thanks, Phil. Thank you so much. Karen, tell Adam we appreciate him donating his time. I certainly will. Yep. So that's pretty cool, Salty. And thank you so much, and to Luke as well. You guys always sticking up for the channel and the message and the comments. You're so appreciated. Yeah, we're averaging about 350 on lives. So cool. So cool. All right, guys. You're very welcome, Darth Phaedrus. You're welcome for this video. Memphis BBQ. Hi there. So nice to see your name pop up. Reminds me of Memphis, always a special place in my heart. That's where I grew up. All right. So yeah, Holly, nice to have you. Thank you so much to the ladies showing up every week and supporting the channel. It's so awesome to see you guys in there. Yeah. Oh, I like this. The third kind of husband, one who understands what she's trying to do, doesn't raise his voice or physically fight, but stands up calmly for the narrative of truth against her victim narrative. Yes, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. That's what good men must learn to do if they're choosing to stay in their marriage, so that they can be true to themselves and their integrity and morals and not let their wives get the best of them. And then for women, to make sure that you're doing your work to be happy in yourself, so you don't create this environment and can have what I call the dance in the marriage and have a healthy, loving relationship, which is what Adam and I are going to be talking about today. And thank you, Luke. Yep. Thanks to all the mods and all the people that support the message. And Tia's here too. Hi, Tia. So nice to see you. All right, guys. And Evo, I am sure you sent me some questions, and thank you so much, but I am going to go ahead and wrap up. So guys, I will take any of those questions Evo sent my way, and I will put them on the queue for the next Q&A. I like doing these formats about once a month, so I really, really appreciate all the awesome questions you guys send in. So I'm going to get going. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and remember, no live show next Saturday. We'll see if I've got the video ready to post with Adam next Saturday. If it's not next Saturday, it will be the last Saturday of the month, so stay tuned. I'll keep you guys posted. And be safe. And I look forward to seeing you guys very soon. All right. Bye.